Let's try this.
I'm gonna have my phone just because I got juiciness.
You got juiciness?
I got juiciness.
What's up, guys?
Hello, everybody.
So JD has brought something to my attention that we just felt like y'all needed to hear it too.
There's an article out here with the title of, now obviously titles are just to get you to start reading.
They are.
Selling a home is expensive too.
Yeah.
Homeowners typically spend nearly $55,000, this report finds.
I don't know that that's completely accurate.
I don't think that's accurate either.
The reason
You're really not spending $55,000.
No.
If anything, you're making X.
yes,
Because
and
you don't ever pay anything.
generally X is a lot more than the $55,000. Now, granted, that does depend on how long you've been in that house. So if you've been there,
Average American equity right now is almost $300,000. $300,000 is a lot more than $55,000.
that is correct.
Simple math.
Now, here's what I will go over what generally sellers pay for when they're selling a home. You have commission. You know that right up front. We go ahead and break it down. Hey, if it sells for this is how much you pay out. We still do 3% to the selling side, 3% to the listing side because we all want the houses to sell and nobody's going to work for free. So we pay the sellers.
And this is how me and Keith run business, not everybody.
Correct. That's how we do our business because if I have the listing, you're not going to bring a buyer over to my listing unless I am offering a reason for you to bring a buyer, and that would be compensation.
I got a family to feed too.
We've got seller concessions, which is just basically saying, hey, I will pay your closing cost if you need us to pay your closing costs. Now, most good agents don't put on there that we're going to offer to pay your closing costs because if we do that, then we're going to get some smaller offers.
And you lose your leverage. You don't have a way to negotiate after that.
Correct.
It's like,
so,
hey, you set it up front, so we're going to take it. Plus,
yes.
we need a little more.
Yes. And if we don't do that up front, then, they're going to ask for it, and they're not going to shoot for the moon when they ask for it. Now, so we've got commission, we've got seller concessions, and again, that's just paying for the buyer's closing costs. More than likely, when you bought your first house, you had somebody help you too. So we've got those two things. Repairs, which, again, we all know when we're going to list the house. Most of us, while we go through the house, we say, hey, we need to get these taken care of. Here's a guy that you can call. He can knock out most of these because that's our job. What was some of the other things that they had down in there? Was that pretty much it?
That's
commission.
pretty much all. The seller has his own closing costs that he has to pay for.
Correct.
So, but again, typically that's not nearly as much as a buyer's closing cost.
Correct.
Usually factor in about 1% of the contract price to be fairly accurate. It's not completely accurate, so don't quote me.
And the reason
but
why,
if you want an estimated idea,
the reason why your buyer's closing cost is generally more than the seller's closing cost is because, again, loan officers like to eat and take care of their families too. So part of the closing cost when you're buying the house is paying the loan officer for his services. That's generally why it's a little higher for buyers versus sellers.
Mm-hmm.
Now, with that being said, sellers' closing costs can get up to 10, 12, 15 grand or more. Not sellers, buyers' closing costs will get to that high. Sellers, on the other hand, it's like $3-5 grand when you're selling a house. It's not that expensive when you are the seller. It's just a little bit more on closing costs when you're the buyer. Again, you got a loan officer. He needs to get paid. Hence the reason why the buyer's closing costs a little bit more. But the average is $55,000 in this article, and I don't know that that's quite accurate.
So, any other articles? I'm going to do a little math in my calculator. Most of your news articles are saying the average price of a home right now is
$450, somewhere.
So we'll say $450,000.
Because that makes math easier. It does.
Remember, we're gonna base it off of 1% to cover your closing costs.
Correct.
So we'll do a full 7. 31.5.
So that's the total so far.
If you tack on buyer's closing costs, then you're probably looking at
probably another 10 grand.
40, 41, 42, somewhere in there.
All right. And then repairs don't get too crazy most of the time.
And side note, I have a great company who can help you with those things that will let you pay them at closing.
Absolutely. Most of the time, especially in this article, the things that they're saying that it's going to cost a seller doesn't come out of your pocket. Everybody will be paid out of closing, and you don't ever have to write the check for that.
And there's this thing called a net sheet.
That you
When
do.
I sit down with you to talk about selling your house, I go over several price ranges of which we think we could sell the house so that you understand, hey, if it doesn't sell for this, it could sell for this, it could sell for this. And I give you what your estimated check is going to be based off of each tier.
All 3 tiers. And
So
the reason
you're not going in blind.
That's
And
right.
They had mentioned something about, like, if you want to save on it, like, don't hire one of us and cut down on your marketing costs and stuff like that. It's like, first off, marketing,
is what we do.
advertisement, and signage or anything like that you need to sell a house, you don't pay for. That's on me. That's on Keith. You don't pay those things. So, long story short, CNBC, your article was bull.
Crap.
Shiesty.
A little bit. It smelled. You got anything else?
I don't like CNBC.
You seem a little standoffish and aggressive, so I was just seeing.
Okay, I'll step off of my soapbox. And I
Now-
will bid you